WWL TV, Channel 4, New Orleans. Bill Elder, Jim Henderson, and meteorologist Dave Barnes. This is Louisiana's news leader, Channel 4's Eyewitness News.
The Louisiana legislature moves to put some limitations on the booming video poker industry. Congress votes to break the arms embargo on Bosnia against the wishes of President Clinton. And a New Orleans police negotiator who walks the fine line between life and death. We'll talk to him tonight. Good evening. This is the 5 o'clock news for a Thursday, June the 9th. Well, some state lawmakers made their move in Baton Rouge today to try and slow down the explosion of video poker machines across Louisiana. Mike Ross has more on the story from the state capitol. Mike?
The state police who regulate video poker ask for the tougher rules.
There's a public sentiment, we believe, and a legislative sentiment that video poker has just grown too quickly.
We would all agree that beauty shop is probably not a place for video poker machines.
The Senate Judiciary Committee was told that video poker machines just don't belong in some places and should be banned in those businesses.
Convenience stores, quick stops, food markets, service stations, grocery stores, then goes on to say barber shops, laundromats, washaterias, package or discount liquor, cigarette establishments, movie theaters, and beauty shops.
And lawmakers were urged to slow down the growth of video poker at truck stops. State police say sham truck stops have popped up as fronts for video poker parlors.
It's not a case now of the horse being out of the barn. I mean, the horse has crossed the road and it's in the next pasture. You've got things that don't come close to looking like a truck stop that are nothing more than mini casinos.
Under the proposed rules, truck stops could have no more than 50 video poker machines. Servicing 18-wheelers would have to be their primary business. And they would have to be at least 5 acres in size to qualify for a gambling license. But truck stop owner Benny Evans doesn't think that last rule is fair. His station in North Louisiana isn't big enough to meet the size requirement. And he says neighboring truck stops that do have video poker are taking away his business.
Gasoline and diesel has always been low profit, high volume, but it can't compete with video poker. And it's just, it's creating a really bad situation for a lot of people around the state who are sincerely petroleum marketers like me.
Instead of imposing more rules, some lawmakers want to do away with video poker completely.
It hurts more people, it's more accessible to people, and I've heard too many horror stories to justify the revenue the state is getting from it. I simply think we ought to repeal it.
Banning video poker doesn't appear to be in the cards, but lawmakers do seem ready to place tighter controls over what has become the most widespread form of legalized gambling in Louisiana. At the state capitol, I'm Mike Ross, Channel 4 Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, debate on the video poker bill continues at this very hour. Next week, lawmakers will consider proposals that would allow the voters to decide if they want video poker to continue in the state. Well, the 3 New York men who authorities say are associated with the Gambino crime family pleaded not guilty to federal charges right here in New Orleans today. The 3 are accused of working with an alleged New Orleans crime family to skim profits from Louisiana's video poker industry. The local men charged in the case have already pleaded not guilty. Congress is sending President Clinton a strong signal this evening: do something about the bloodshed in Bosnia. A U.S. House today approved a measure that requires the United States to act alone in lifting an arms embargo against Bosnia. And that proposal passed after some very heated debate.
But if you're in a trench in Sarajevo or in Gorazda, and you're in the UN, under the UN auspices, as much as we may dislike or think the embargo is unfair, we're taking sides, and it would be a tragic mistake.
We don't want to Americanize this war. What we want to do is permit the people who are being victimized and slaughtered to be able to defend themselves.
Well, after the House passed that action, the administration is warning that the move could disrupt the fragile peace process and set the United States itself on a road to war. The so-called flesh-eating bacteria has claimed a life in Michigan. 34-year-old Gary Meadows died this morning. Doctors say he apparently contracted the disease after scraping his knee during a bike accident. Here in New Orleans, one man is hospitalized from that same disease, but doctors say they caught the infection in time. Black labor and community leaders took their message about health care reform to the streets of New Orleans today. Dozens of people marched down Poydras Street to the Hale Boggs Federal Building. Organizers are demanding health care coverage as good as that provided to members of Congress.
Those of us in the labor movement have therefore worked very hard in the last several months to get our Congress to enact health care reform that would provide universal coverage, that would have a fair way of dealing with premiums, and that basically would provide the type of choice that Americans deserve and desire.
The labor leaders say that Congress has comprehensive health insurance for itself, but 1/4 of all blacks have no health insurance at all. It was a story that touched a lot of people. 2 Siamese twins who had to be separated in a risky operation. One girl died in surgery last August. Well, the other lost her battle to survive today. Monica Gale reports on it.
Angela Lakeberg cut her first baby tooth over Easter. By all accounts, she was a fighter of the first order. She survived for 10 months after being surgically separated from her conjoined twin sister. Even though she was constantly on a respirator, it looked like she might be out of the woods. But after a recent turn for the worse, her little body just gave out.
Low blood oxygen levels are the cause of her death. What caused that low blood oxygen level is not clear at the moment.
The costs of Angela's short life were high. Her conjoined sister Amy was sacrificed during the operation to separate them last August. The bills for the twins' care at 2 hospitals are well over $1 million, and there are questions over who will pay. The notoriety of the case disrupted their family, shedding a harsh light on their father's drug abuse. But it was a family struggle that touched people everywhere because of the many difficult decisions that had to be made about life and death for 2 babies.
For people to care about somebody they've never met and to help somebody they don't even know. There's a golden key waiting for them.
Kenneth Lakeberg, who admitted using donations to buy cocaine, remains in drug rehab and faces more criminal charges when he gets out. His wife has remained in seclusion, but her sister had this message for everyone who cared.
There's not enough words to say thank you. And if Angela could talk, she would say it too.
Angela will be buried next to her sister Amy in Roselawn, Indiana. Monica Gale, CBS News, New York.
Still to come on Eyewitness News at 5 o'clock. The feds may be wrapping up an investigation of Agriculture Secretary Mike Espy. And is rollerblading hazardous to your health? For 3 years, one man with the New Orleans Police Department has held the job of chief negotiator. His name is Corporal Barry Marquez. He is an 11-year veteran with the force, and for 3 of those years, he has walked a tightrope between life and death. Leo Alexander has his story.
For 18 years, the New Orleans Police Department has had a SWAT team, which stands for Special Weapons and Tactics. For the last 3 years, their chief negotiator has been Corporal Barry Marquez, who proudly says over the unit's history, they've rolled on more than 300 situations, and only twice have they used their guns.
That's pretty good, wouldn't you say?
I would say so. We're a very elite group of people back there. A strong support system, self-discipline, fire discipline, and we run basically a quasi-military organization.
Marquez has been a SWAT team member for 6 years, but negotiation has been his thing for the last 5.
I've responded personally to about 190 roles that I've had hands-on negotiations with, or attempt negotiations.
In 5 years?
In 5 years.
How many have you lost?
I haven't lost any.
This year, he's rolled on 14 situations, but the one he remembers as the most grueling was the church standoff last June.
You say you lost weight, 10 pounds. How physically demanding is this job, the negotiator?
It's not physical at all, but it's stressful. You know, it's a mental thing.
How do you come down after doing what you do? I mean, you walk a tightrope between life and death. That's a lot of responsibility. How do you relax after that?
You know, I just can't, I can't put that into words. Sometimes I'm amazed as to how I diffuse myself as well. But I've got a good friend at home, you know, my wife. And she lives a lot of this anxiety and stress with me. And she's my coach, believe it or not.
Marquez didn't just walk into this job. He's been trained by the FBI, Canadian Police, and Great Britain's Scotland Yard. Even with these credits, he manages to keep his approach simple.
It's like fishing. You know, if you cast a net, you get a bite, you reel him in, okay? But if you cast a net and you don't get a bite, then you have to keep casting. You got to be persistent in your efforts in trying to reach this subject.
His simple strategy that allows no one to die on his watch. Leo Alexander, Channel 4, Eyewitness News.
Well, funeral arrangements are pending this evening for Patrick Arnold. He was the bureau chief for the Associated Press in New Orleans since 1987 and a 22-year veteran of the news organization. Arnold died Wednesday night of a heart attack. He was only 53 years old. Well, the Justice Department may be winding up its investigation of Agriculture Secretary Mike Espy. The agency is looking into whether or not Espy took free travel, lodging, and game tickets from Tyson Foods. The Arkansas Poultry Company has close ties to President Bill Clinton. Kentucky tobacco farmers tossed 3,000 pounds of their crop into a river this afternoon. They were protesting planned tax hikes against their industry. The farmers say they have already been taxed enough. Well, along with skateboards, bicycles, and all-terrain vehicles, there is yet another danger on wheels. The Consumer Product Safety Commission today released a report that says rollerblades, also known as inline skates, are dangerous to your health. Kent Jarrell reports.
The technical name, inline skating. One of the brand name descriptions, rollerblading. It's become a 90s craze. It's good exercise, but it can also hurt you. A dramatic jump in skater emergency room visits is expected this year, 83,000, more than double last year's toll, and the average bill, $5,000 apiece.
This sport is dangerous, and the injuries are serious. 23,000 children will fracture a bone.
And it can be much worse. This week in Florida, a 9-year-old skater was killed after hitting a Chevy Blazer. At least 5 other skaters have died in the last 2 years. There is nothing inherently wrong with the skates themselves, according to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. No real design changes that can be recommended to reduce the number of injuries. It is the skaters who can make skating hazardous.
About a year and a half ago, I fell, and it wasn't severe, but it was severe enough for me to realize that I needed to get protective gear that I hadn't been using.
Pads on the wrists, on the elbows and knees, can keep you out of the hospital, and a helmet can be a good investment too. Also, get a lesson. Watch out for traffic and pedestrians. Don't skate recklessly, and
downhill, that's something you definitely have to know your way around before you get stuck zooming down a street.
And you have to stop.
And you have to stop. That's key, yes.
It can help separate the skaters from the wounded in action. Kent Jarrell for CBS News, Washington.
And still to come, the Knicks need to get defensive about their offense, and Jim explains what that's all about. That and all the rest of the day's sports right after this. Time for sports. Jim is here, and you're leading with...
The Knicks, and not a new problem for them last night, Bill. Their woeful shooting. The New York Knicks usually shoot badly and play such tenacious defense that their opponents do too. That's the way it went in last night's finals opener that Houston won by a score of 85-78. The Rockets managed just 2 field goals in the entire fourth quarter. They would have been in grave trouble, but the Knicks were just about as bad. They shot just 24% in the second half, failing to take advantage of a Rocket team that scored just 13 fourth-quarter points.
You know, it's like an old football game played in the mud, and everybody's hand-checking, everybody's banging up against each other.
We had the ability to win this game tonight if we could just step up and make shots. And I know that, you know, is a universal disease of ours, or at least the perception is, but at this particular time, you got to step up and make them, and we did not.
San Antonio Spur head coach John Lucas, upset because the Spurs wouldn't move on a new contract, decided to make a move himself. Lucas resigned today, reportedly to become the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, where he would replace Fred Carter, but there's been no confirmation of that. The Spurs board of directors had been hesitant to commit to Lucas for another year after his Spurs went down meekly in the first round of the playoffs to the Utah Jazz. Tomorrow, the Saints currently in town will scatter with the end of organized off-season workouts. They'll enjoy about 6 weeks off before convening again in lacrosse. Free agency and the salary cap have put an ever-changing face on the Saints of 1994. That change was accelerated by the need to get younger at a number of positions on the team.
It's not a bad thing. You know, the movement isn't a bad thing, and I think it's going to help this team. I think the additions we've made through unrestricted free agency, regular free agency, the draft, guys that are going to be moving on and not playing anymore, not playing for us, and young guys coming in, I think it's going to be good for this football team. I think it's something we've needed.
And these smoldering remains are what's left of the exclusive Atlanta home of Falcon wide receiver Andre Rison. His girlfriend, hip-hop singer Lisa Lopes, allegedly torched it after an argument with him early this morning. She's been charged with arson and criminal damage to property. It's not their first public squabble. Last year, Rison was arrested in a grocery store parking lot after allegedly hitting Lopes and firing a handgun. Jennifer Capriati has made some big mistakes, but no bigger than her father did in raising her, he says. Stefano Capriati, speaking to a newspaper in Italy, says his daughter will be released from a drug treatment center next week and will play tennis again even better than before. His error, he said, was managing her life 24 hours a day. He regrets that he made her play and practice so much that she never had a chance to do things normal kids her age did. Once she's out of rehab and rejoins the family, they intend to leave Florida forever, maybe to move to Italy. And it's a field of 7 for Saturday's Belmont Stakes. Gopher Gin and Tabasco Cat, the only 2 horses of the 7 to start in both the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness, will be side by side in the first and second post positions. Gopher Gin is the early 9-5 favorite. And Shaquille O'Neal is returning to LSU as a student in the offseason. We'll show you his story at 6.
Good for him. Thank you, Jim. Still ahead, Dave takes a look at the tropics as well as the local forecast coming up right after this. Dave is here with weather, and it was a scorcher again today for a while. And I know some of the rain cooled it off in places.
It sure did, Bill. The only reason we're in the upper 80s right now is because the rain did just that. But we still reached the lower 90s, even though we had the showers around. Without them, we'd had maybe 95 or 96 as an average.
I'm not complaining about the showers.
Oh, I'm not either, Bill. It cooled it off a little bit. At any rate, it's in the upper 80s outside right now at the International Airport, 88, Slidell 88 as well. The Audubon Zoo checks in with 87 degrees. And look at that heat index. It's 100 even with the temperatures in the upper 80s. And you know why? The humidity, 70%. That's high. The winds are south at about 9 miles per hour. The pressure is falling, and the high this afternoon at the International Airport was 93, low 74 so far. They've only had a trace of rain at the International Airport, but that could change, and we'll see why right now. Look at the heavy shower and thunderstorm near Lake Maurepas. It's drifting toward the east-southeast at about 10 or 15 miles per hour, so there's still a chance that parts of the city, including the airport, could get some showers and thunderstorms during the next hour or two. And here's a big one here to the southwest of Gulfport, some scattered ones out in the Mississippi Sound. Also a number of scattered showers well to the south of the city and far to the west around Baton Rouge and to the south of Franklinton as well, a few scattered showers and thunderstorms. So keep your umbrella handy because there's still a chance for some scattered showers or thunderstorms during the next 2 to 3 hours. Then after that, I think most, if not all, the showers will be over. More than half the area got some rain today. Heaviest amount was down in Belle Chase, a ½ an inch, but I think there were some places that had heavier rains than are shown here. Here in the French Quarter, we didn't have anything at all. Our average high this afternoon was 93 degrees. Hard to believe with all of the clouds around, but we had it. And we were, well, that makes it about 4 degrees above the normal. And here in the French Quarter, 96 was our high temperature. The forecast for tonight then, widely scattered thunderstorms will end early. That is during the next 2 or 3 hours. And our lows will range from about 72 to 78 degrees. On the national scene, watch these heavy showers and thunderstorms flare up to our north part of the state, on into Arkansas, Tennessee, all the way into Georgia. A number of severe thunderstorm warnings in effect in that region there just to our north. The reason they're having those showers and thunderstorms, all the Gulf moisture coming up from our region, interacting with a weak front or trough of low pressure that extends across that region, is going to be there tomorrow. So I still think they'll have some more of that activity. And in our area with the sunshine heating up that Gulf moisture, there's still a chance for some showers and thunderstorms during the afternoon. How about the tropics? Nothing much going on there right now. The upper air winds are a little bit too strong from the west toward the east, so I don't think we have to worry about tropical storm development tonight or tomorrow, and probably not for a number of days. Here's the forecast then for tomorrow. Still a chance for some widely scattered showers and thunderstorms during the afternoon and evening hours, but otherwise partly sunny at any rate and hot. Look at those highs again, Bill, 90 to 96 degrees. That extended forecast, Bill, it's hard to believe, but I look at the weather maps for 5 days and I can't see the difference. One day to the other, widely scattered afternoon and evening showers and thunderstorms, and hot.
As long, though, as the heat stays around 91 or 92, I can deal with it. But once it's 95 and above, then it gets oppressive.
By the way, Bill, if you're going to the beaches for a swim this weekend, it looks pretty good. Looks like a lot of sunshine and hot.
All right, thank you, Dave. Back with more right after this. Well, the city of New Orleans says it plans to beef up its summer jobs program for young people. The city will hire a number of kids for a 7-week program. The mayor is also urging businesses to think about hiring help for the summer.
We are doing what we can with the help of so many people. If every business out there would hire a young person, and those that can hire more than one young person, if everyone does their part, then we can come closer to satisfying what one of our objectives is, and that is to provide a job for every young person during the summer.
Kids aged 14 to 21 can fill out application cards this Saturday at Suno, Delgado, and the Uptown Lions Center, at the gym, at Burma's Memorial Center in Algiers, and you'll need your birth certificate and social security number to do that. But right now, we switch you to the CBS Evening News.
Is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Connie Chung.